Naked Shamanism. Welcome to With Insights Radio. I'm your host, Iggy Garcia. I will take you on a journey across the universe through shamanism, metaphysical, and holistic. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Hello, my friends. Hello. Welcome to Iggy Garcia Live. I'm Iggy Garcia. This is episode 153. The question is, what's next? Where do we go from here? What's going on? What's going to happen? So, like I start every show, we're going to light a candle, ask for guidance, ask for our ancestors to guide us into the directions we need to go, and give thanks to our ancestors for all the help and everything that we need. And, thank the Great Spirit. Thank all the things that center us, all the things that are important to us, and give thanks to all the people who are in our lives. Give thanks to them as well, even the ones that challenge us. They're just as important, to be challenged and also to feel and be in that place of self-check realization. Gonna burn a little sage here. Always good to burn a little sage. Because we need to make sure that we're clear and we're open and we're in the right direction and flowing in the right energies as well. Does sage work? In my mind, yes. In my belief system, yes, it works. In yours, maybe not. But in mine, I do believe that the sage moves and cleanses and clears things, because I believe that. And because when you smell it, it just smells really good, and it gives you, it has a lot of healing properties and has a lot of cleansing properties. And there's been a lot of research done on sage, especially white sage, ceremonial sage, as we call it here. And so, it's kind of the topic we're going to go into. That's kind of what's next. What's next for America? What's next for the world? What's going on? What do shamans think? What do shamans do? How do they see and how do they approach the world? Well, every year on New Year's Eve, the shamans and Peru all gather and they do their altars. They lay out all the things and they make their predictions and they make their ideas and their beliefs known to the world. Especially in a presidential year, they get to pick who's going to be president. Well, they don't get to pick. They have a connection to the source, and usually they're pretty right. There's always out of 10 shamans, one shaman's wrong. But that's because that guy's just rebel shaman. But either how, most of the times when the shamans pick a political leader who's going to win, they're usually on the ball about that, usually, And they have the pictures and they move it around and, they bring in the energy. And those of you who are not familiar with shamanism is one of those things that it's a very broad and very concentrated thing all at the same time. You have all kinds of shamans in the world, and shamanism is just a word that is just a broad word, just that covers it all, but it doesn't give everything the proper respect and the proper view about that and what that means. But in most cultures, the shamans are usually revered. They usually have insight. They see things that other people don't necessarily see. Not that you don't see it. They're more connected. Are they? Maybe. I don't know. I believe so, and I want to believe that most shamans have some kind of insight that most people don't want to carry or use. Not everybody's called to shamanism. Shamanism is one of those things that is very unique and very special, and it's not for everybody. And some people like to learn about it because they're curious about the process and the things. And some people just want to get high and get drugs and go on a trip and, do whatever they do. This is the truth. This is the realities of this stuff. This is what some people do. They just want to abuse the drug. Now, what they find out is the drug actually will do some crazy stuff and make you see the world a little differently than you used to see it. The plant medicine is very powerful medicine, but that's for another show. And I have several shows in the past that I've talked about the plant medicines and what plant medicine is. But in shamanism, what I want to talk about today is what's next. What's next for the world? What's next for humanity? What is next for our country? What's next for the people who live here? What is next? What's going to happen? I wrote a little blurb there on Facebook because my mind was just going all over the place, and I was thinking about all the different things that were going on. I was thinking about the United States. Where are we going? Where's the country that I came and adopted me? Where are they going? In what direction are we moving? Now, some of you will have different perspectives on what you see in America, how you see America, and how you feel about America. I see it from a different vantage point just because of my background, my heritage, my indoctrination to it, and being a minority, and being a Hispanic man, being a man of who speaks Spanish and has a different influence and different connection. But yet I was able to navigate in both worlds. The world that doesn't see me as a Latin man, and the world that sees me just as a European person, like I would be any guy who looks kind of white. In my country, I'm a mestizo. I'm mixed. I'm a mix between Native American and European blood. That's who I am. That's why I look the way I do. That's why I have a beard. That's why my hair grows long, and my eyes are slanted a little bit, because that's the mixture of all the people inside of me. Those are all the people that came before me who were giving and passing genetic material down every generation. And some of it gets watered down and diluted, and some of it goes away and just becomes 1%, and some of it stays to 40%, which is my indigenous blood at 40%, which is pretty understandable since I'm from Peru. And then the other ones are Italian, Northern Italian, Southern Italian, Norwegian, Welsh. Funny that I don't see German in there, even though we have German blood on my dad's side of the family. So I didn't get all the German traits, and probably some of my siblings did. And but I also got Russian in me. I have Mali in me. There's all kinds of cool combinations in me. That's pretty cool. I'm not just I'm an eclectic mix of ideas and feelings and emotions. And no wonder I feel the way I do. No wonder I things roll around in my head, because I'm fighting these internal genetic ideals, and philosophies that things have been passed down. Is that true? I don't know. There are some things that science just can't prove, man. I'm sorry to tell you, to all my science friends, all my friends who are just dead on beat, thinking that science is the only way, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, science can't prove it, then it must not be real. Okay, whatever. Okay, science can't prove everything. Science can't. Science still hasn't been able to prove how the eel, procreates, and how it can go from fresh water to salt water and still survive. So, hey, they're still trying to figure that out, according to some articles that I've read. If you can prove me wrong, then send it to my DM me and let me know about that, because I'd be kind of curious about that. Last time I checked. But anyhow, I'm here to talk about, what I see and how I feel about what I see. I see a country divided. I see a country where people have, and this wasn't something just started like last week. This is something that started like 5 years ago. Okay, on the first run, when Trump was running for president, he wanted to, and Hillary Clinton, and it started on that campaign trail. When he, it's kind of when people started to, start to take notice and start to come awake, not awaken, because there's a difference, come awake to the possibility that the world might be different with certain leadership. Now, here in America, I've come to understand, I've come to know, I've run for political office, so I kind of have a little bit of right to say what I'm going to say. But it's a buddy-buddy system. It's an old boys club, especially in the Democratic and Republican parties. I ran as a Democrat. Am I a Democrat? Not necessarily, but there's only two parties. And you know what? The secondary parties don't get a lot of attention, so you have to pick a side. See, that's the problem with America. That's the issue I have. You have to pick a side. You have to pick a party to align yourself with. It's not even in alignment with you. And I'm not saying we need to have 13 political parties like some countries do, and maybe that's why they end up with some leadership that's pretty ratty, but in America, I mean, we should have, at least four legitimate parties, Honestly, truthfully, with 50 states that we have, and for the population we have, there should be at least four definite, ingrown, rooted parties, like we used to have in the past. Now we're only down to two. There's parties within parties, and subsections of parties, but that's not the same. These small parties don't get a lot of representation because they make it difficult. They make it hard. They make it hard so they would get no traction. Why? Because the ones on top don't want them. They don't want a third party. They don't want a second party. They don't want a fourth party. They want to battle their friend across the hall there, the donkey and the elephant. That's enough. We don't need anymore. Hey, follow the line. But see, that's what happens. That's what happens when you only have two parties in this country. You don't have diversity. That's not diversity. No. I'm sorry. Explain to me how that's diversity. Because it's not. Okay, so you have different kind of thinking that's non-conservative. But you're conservative and you have some, out thinking, kind of like I do. I have conservatism in my blood a little bit, and I also have. I would probably consider myself a moderate. I have a moderate way of thinking. I'm not too radical one way or too conservative that way. But I don't have a party that represents me. The Democrats don't represent me. The Republicans don't represent me. And so this is the problem that we fall. That that we associate certain parties with certain people and certain types of ethnicity. And that's not true. Because there are Hispanics who are Democrats, there are Hispanics who are Republicans, there are blacks who are Democrats, and there are blacks who are Republicans. And the list goes on and on. Now, are the numbers showing one way or the other, which way people lean more? I don't know. I don't have those facts. But from my eyeball point of view, it looks like a lot of minorities tend to lean towards the Democratic Party because they offer different things. They offer things that seem to be like for the people, but I'm not sure. And then the old saying is, Republican Party likes to help people who are in business, and people who are in business usually do better when there's a Republican in office. Is that true? I don't know. But those are the words that come out of people's mouths. I know I've said that before, which is in my heart and my truth. Sometimes it feels that way. Why? Because it's a different thinking, different philosophies, different ideas. Now, my biggest concern is that we have a lot of rich people, a lot of educated people, which is fine. I don't have a problem with education, but I have a problem a little bit when wealthy people dominate the landscape of politics. That you have to have, greenbacks in order to run for office. I know it's not always true, and there's always a one or two in there that fits, but one and two is not enough. The common person should be able to say, hey, I want to run for office and be supported and not heckled and laughed at. I was heckled and laughed at when I wanted to run for office. You don't have any money, Yeah, but I would like to campaign and I would like to go out and do what I need to do, hit the pavement, which I did. And I was surprised the people that gave me money. More strangers gave me money than my friends did. My friends were afraid to align themselves with me. They weren't my friends. They were just people who liked to be around me because they thought I was funny. I like to drum and I like to do certain things. And then when I stepped into the arena of politics, all of a sudden it was like, ooh, well, I don't really want to be they don't tell you that, but they don't want to be associated with you because it might look bad for them. They don't have to tell me. I felt it. I saw it. Okay, and I experienced it. And I watch people flip me off, call me a lot of bad words, and I'm standing there on East North Broadway with my kids holding my Garcia for Congress signs, and the things that came out of people's mouth, go back to Mexico, blah, 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 you name it. But there was also good people too. There are people who supported me. It's politics. You have to expect that. That's what happens when you run for office. You're gonna get eaten up. People are gonna challenge you. People are gonna say, hey, who's this guy? They're gonna question you. They want to know who you are, what you do. And rightfully so. You have to show who you are. You have to win people's trust. gain it. You can't just say, I'm going to vote for this guy because I don't like that guy. That's not, I don't know. Something's weird about that. I don't think that's a good way of philosophy for voting. We also have to look at the future plans of how things work out. For many people, they don't do that. They vote party line. They strictly vote party line. Doesn't matter who's there and what's that. They just trust that the people who they put there and run. But I'm going to tell you, most of these guys are all deciding, hey, you going to run for office this time? Let me run for this office. No, I'm going to run for this office. If you're involved in politics deep enough, you'll figure that out. You'll learn that pretty quick how that works, especially in the Republican Party. My dad was Republican, I was Democrat. That was an interesting combination. And that's kind of how, it went. My father ran for mayor of Columbus as a resident alien here in Columbus, Ohio, against Buck Reinhardt. And he, my father exposed a lot of corruption in Buck Reinhardt's administration. When he was talking about drugs coming through the airport, well, you know what happened? There was drugs through the airport. And boy, my dad slammed that hard in the campaign trail. But you know what? He got disqualified because he was not a citizen. He was not able to vote for himself. He was not able to run. But technically, my dad said, hey, it's a city, it's a corporation. Corporation technically has to have a president. There's different types of corporate, entities. So I don't know all about it, but I understand my dad's idea why he wanted to run. Corporation's one thing, and being a citizen is another. And it caused him a lot of problems. It ended up causing him a lot of problems. The INS was called on him, and they wouldn't give him citizenship for 32 years. It took him 32 years to get his citizenship, just because he ran for office, and he had to prove himself. But they sure used him. The government sure used my dad. Excuse me. The government used my dad. My father, I'm just going to say, my father's not alive anymore, so neither is my mom. My father worked for the CIA. My father was he was a handler. He worked for the government, and that's how they used him. He was like a tube. They use you and they abuse you and they throw you away. And so he had a lot of things he did. I'm not going to get into it in this show. It's kind of my personal stuff, but I'd like you to know that because I think it's important that my dad did that. I think that he, even as a resident alien, he still worked for them, even though he wasn't a full agent per se. They'll never know, never tell you, but he did work for the government. He did go overseas and they did send him to stuff. And he has some amazing stories about how he stayed alive. But anyhow, moving to the crux of what I was talking about earlier. I was talking about, we're going to have to change the name of America. The U.S. State's going to change its name. The biggest thing that's happening right now is people are afraid to talk. People are afraid to share. People are afraid to speak their voice because somebody else is going to slam dance them on the floor. Everybody has their ideas. Everybody has their beliefs. And everybody, we come from a place of fear sometimes when we hear other people share ideas that we're not in alignment with. Number one, this pandemic is a good example. Number two, when Trump was in office. And the third one is religion. Oh, God, don't even talk about religion. Don't talk about Trump. Don't talk about the pandemic, because right now, there was a big push. Are you vaccinated? Not vaccinated? Everybody wants to know everybody's business. We're getting to that place where, we're just violating people's rights because we think we're entitled to. You're not entitled to know anything about my personal health. I'm not entitled to know anything about your personal health. It's not your freaking business. And if you ask me, I won't tell you regardless if I didn't. I don't ask people, hey, do you have herpes? Oh, excuse me. Do you have whooping cough? Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. Do you have this? Do you have that? Do we go around doing that? No. Are those things contagious? Absolutely. Most people just think it's their business. It's not your business to ask somebody if they are or not. And the only time it's your business, okay, if you're sick, if you're not well, to stay away from people, okay? If you were sick and you didn't realize you were sick, to let the people know that you were. That's just common sense. That's just being respectful. And I get that. And I understand where people come from when they get upset when people don't say something. Sometimes you just didn't know you were sick. Sometimes, but when you know you're sick and you're there, that's a different story. The people who were in good faith think that you're going to be okay, that you're well, they have the right to know. They have the right to know, to feel. Now, history is one of those things that is written by the winners. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the Incas or the Spaniards or the Catholic Church. The winners always write history. They write their version of history. They're the ones who get to say, hey, we won. You know what? This is how it went down. But, history evolves too. There are books, there are notes and things that are written in history. Like my friend puts it, he sent me this thing earlier about George Washington, I found really interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know. It's not that I didn't know because I'm ignorant. It's because history is always evolving. History is always changing. Things are being rediscovered. There are things lost to history. There was a time where Al-Qaeda would go into countries and destroy the effigies of Buddhas in certain countries, erase them, the religious artifacts of different cultures, because they wanted to have their culture prominent and dominant. Okay, so they don't have a good track record, right? According to the outside world looking in. I'm not in the Middle East. I'm not from the Middle East. I don't know the philosophy or the thinking in the Middle East. I don't know what those people were thinking. Now, when I watched the Afghanistan thing explode, as an American, I think I have the right to say, as my tax dollars paying, I do believe we were there too long, yes. And that fire wasn't started by this administration. But, this administration also has the right to do executive orders and cancel things out that they don't like. You can't just be blaming. The blame game doesn't work anymore. You're too smart, you're too educated, we're too strong, we're too powerful of a nation to pass the buck to the other guy. Or the other guy did it. Oh, I didn't start it. It wasn't me. It was that administration, this administration, that guy. Come on, man. Really? As an American, I sit here watching the leadership of this country. You want good leadership. And like I tell my friends that I say, I don't think we've had good leadership for the last 2 rounds. Honestly, quite frankly. I know some of you guys are Trumpers and you love Trump. I don't dislike the guy necessarily. I don't necessarily like him either. And Biden, I don't know what to think about Biden. The old Biden that I knew historically, the guy who plagiarized people's speeches and used them in his own speeches and didn't give credit. That's why he got disqualified in 1988, I believe. We don't do enough research. And the cavalier statement that he made is, well, that was 4 days ago. Actually, it was 2 days ago. But basically what you're saying is, well, slavery was 200 years ago. The Spaniards coming 500 years ago, that was the past. Get over it. That's what pissed me off. That bothered me. What bothered me is that and I wrote this, we're the strongest, smartest, and this is what I believe. Okay, this is my belief. You don't have to agree with me. But this is the United States of America. This is a country that's very powerful. This is a country that has a lot of resources. This is a country that, if it wanted to do something very, very drastically or help really in a way that's really huge humanitarian, they can do it. We have the money, we have the resources, we have the equipment, we have the military, we have, you name it. This is just my thinking. So please, just bear with me. What happened behind those closed doors, we'll never know. Because everybody covers their ass. We know that. There's always trying to spin doctors, trying to figure out how to spin the story. Excuse me. How to spin the story, how to make it better, how to make it right, how to make it look not so screwed up. All right? Things could be done in stages. Even a little kid could tell you that. You do things in stages. Well, Trump made the deal. Well, you have executive power, Mr. President. You can actually override his executive power. Okay, if you didn't feel like you should have done that, then you could have done that. So these are excuses. We're not stupid. American, we're not dumb. To play the blame game. No, I'm sorry. They all do it. Every time a new president goes in office, they always erasing someone's executive orders, messing up something. Because that's what they do. It's because it's an ego. It's an ego trip. Republicans, it doesn't matter. They're always there to undermine each other because they want to leave a legacy for themselves. All of these presidents do. Don't kid yourself. They don't care about you. Hey, Andy, what's up, buddy? You know, they don't care. Most people, being president is the closest thing to being a king in this country. This is the closest thing to royalty that you'll ever get. You know, we have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to represent every aspect of America, not the aspect that you like and you care about. Just because your political party and your affiliation is that way, no. You represent all Americans, and you have to find a way to bridge the gap. And if you can't do that, then get out. And how do you get out? People vote you out. People move you out. You know, and sometimes, you know, you get out, they throw you out. And so, you know what? What are you going to do? What's America going to do? Well, what America needs to do, and this is just my opinion, is people need to be vocal. You don't need to go destroy things and break things and erase history and destroy this and destroy that because you don't like it. History is very valuable and very important, even if you don't like it. History is very, very crucial to our growth. You don't erase. We don't become the Taliban and Al Qaeda and erase effigies of statues and stuff because we don't like it because it's a Confederate statue. I don't like it. Blah blah blah. Maybe you don't put it in the front yard. Maybe you put it in the backyard because it's still history. There are people who fought. There are people who fought and died on both sides because they didn't know any better. They just knew they follow orders. They had to do it or be court-martialed, go to jail. They had a different belief system. They thought differently. Do you think the North, everybody in the North was in agreement with that? No. Do you think everybody in the South was in agreement with that? No. Brothers and cousins fighting each other in the Civil War, one of the bloodiest civil war in the world, right? Why? Because people with money and power caused all that. Yeah, and I'm against slavery too. And the truth is, it wasn't all about slavery, my friends. Everybody, they tried to make it sound like that. It was about economics. The South economically needed to have the way they were living because that's the only way they knew. Yet everybody always has things the way they know. This is how we've lived. Shocker, Afghanistan, boom, what happened? We're pulled out, and everybody who's living comfortably, everybody who's living in peace, all of a sudden, it's gone in 8 hours. Just like that. And erased. That's how quickly and how fragile it is. And I hear people say, well, we've been there too long. It's been 20 years, I think, there's a civil war, and that, when you get into somebody else's problems, it's hard. I'm not into disagreement with you on that. My question is, how do you navigate, how do you get 10,000, 15,000 people out in a way that is justified, a way that you can do it? Don't tell me you can't do it, okay? Because the first person tells me, oh, well, it's logistically impossible. Listen, I told you, we're America. We're the United States of America. I know right now they made commercial airlines go in there and help people get out. Will they get them all out? I don't know. I hope so. I guess we have a deadline on the 31st. We'll see how it goes. But that should never happen that way. This is just my belief. This is just my idea. What's next? What's next for these people? What's next for Afghanistan? What's next for the people, the women of Afghanistan? Listen, if you think that can't happen here, that can happen here. It happened there. Whatever you see in the world is an image in a mirror of we are. Here right now, we're battling things because we were not united. And you're never going to be totally united. There's never going to be a totally united front with the people of America, with other people of America. It's just that's unrealistic. But we have to find a common ground. We have to find a place where we can all kind of say, okay, we'll give you this, you give you that. Let's work together on this. But that doesn't happen. It's all power play. It's all money. Your congressional leaders up there, most of those guys, it's all pork belly, man. They're all getting paid. They're all rich. They're all millionaires. They all leave there super rich, richer than they ever were when they went in. Which is, I guess it's okay, right? But you know what? Some of those guys were already rich when they went in there. So how do you get a common person to run for office? Most common people don't think they can run for office. Most common people say, oh, I don't want to waste time. Most people say, I don't have money. It takes money to run for office. It takes money to run a car. It takes money to put gas in your car. $40 in, $400 just to make. So my point is this. My point, if it is a point, is that we're in a place right now where we've been totally pitted against each other. All of us have been pitted against each other in one form or another. If you voted for Trump, you're a racist. Have you heard that? I've heard that. And then people are afraid to talk. Except for some groups. Some people will gladly let you know that they voted for Trump. But there are other people who won't say a word. Everybody has good and bad. Everybody has versions, pieces, and parts that we don't like. And just like Biden, he has pieces and parts that I don't resonate with. Trump has pieces and parts I don't resonate with. And I don't know if America just wanted to see The Apprentice Part 9 with him in office. Maybe that's what they wanted to see. Maybe that's what they were expecting to see. Him firing people left and right, which he kind of did. But I talked to a lot of people, and their lives are fairly good with Trump. There are other people who were really upset with him. But I'll tell you one thing about what happened with him. Any other time in history, if anybody had said what he said, him and Billy Bush, it would have been done. It would have been over. It would have been like, and the Democrats really thought they had him at that point. Of course, spin doctors come in, they spin the story. Tell them it's locker room talk. And you know what? I guess it worked. I guess that's why he became president. It didn't damage him. I remember lesser candidates buckling. You had an affair. We caught you. And they just buckled. Instead of saying, yeah, I had an affair, but my wife and I reconciled. Yeah, and so what? People have affairs all the time. Things happen to people. But that's not their blood. But see, Trump was different. Trump was like, hey, that's what guys talk about in the locker room. Do they? A lot of times they do. I've been in the locker room. I've heard it. Not necessarily agreement with it, but I've heard it. I've heard a lot of crazy stuff in the locker room. Trust me. Seen a lot of crazy stuff. But that's kind of where we're at. America has an identity crisis right now. Especially the pandemic's caused us to have an identity crisis because now we're coming out of our little caves little by little, slowly, surely, one step at a time. And we're finding ourselves struggling to acclimate to some degree because we're uncertain, and a lot of us thought we had the right to know if someone was vaccinated or unvaccinated. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, wash your hands, don't touch your face. Remember all that? Wash your cans and stuff. I mean, we were real vigilant because we didn't know. I think a lot of people in the beginning probably were like, okay, maybe there's some truth to this. Maybe there is something about this. And I think little by little what happened was, this is how I'm just seeing it. I don't know if it's true or not. Is I think people, when they started seeing the numbers go down, I think what happened was they understood. They go, okay, well, it's safe now. We can go back. And is it safe? I don't know. It depends where you're getting your data from. If you're getting it from the CDC, from the government, from different organization over here, over there, it just really depends. And then the media doesn't help. The media just makes things worse sometimes. They just instill fear. They never talk about the people who heal, the people who are doing better, the people who've fought, who've gotten out of it, who've won. And I'm sure someone's going to post, well, look, I found something on MSNBC where this guy survived COVID 3 times. I get that. I had some really good friends die from it. I have family members who have died from it. But it doesn't mean that I have to stop living and stop, saying, hey, you know what? And question. You should always question. The rush to push and the rush to inject, the rush to jab, and you have the right to ask that. You have the right to question that as an American. You have the right to you have the right to question that as a human being. As a human being, your enable rights are to question authority when you think the authority is abusing you. We don't know who's pulling the strings. We only know what we see and what's in front of us. You know, I'm very neutral about this because you know what? It's like I see the one side and I see the other side, but it doesn't make sense sometimes when you watch what's going on. You know, I don't like the underhand stuff. You know, when I was reading a Newsweek article about how parents sign away their consent and not even realize they're signing away their consent for their kids to get vaccinated. Is that right? Then what happens if you don't sign the consent form? These are the questions we need to ask. You're going to watch a lot of offshoots. You're going to watch a lot of people going in a certain direction. There's a lot of control and manipulation right now happening. And you know what? If that's how you feel, you should express that and talk about that. I'm personally tired of pretending and hiding and acting like everything's okay. Like you know, it's not okay. You know, I don't talk about it all the time. And sometimes I post something and you know, and I get corrected because it's not correct. And I'll take it down. But you know, without actually being there, you don't really know what's happening. It's like you looking in my house through a window and trying to say, "Oh, I know how Iggy lives. He walks to that room. He goes to the bathroom, and then sometimes he sits at his computer." You don't have any idea. You have no clue what's happening in my life. You're looking at me like a fish tank, looking at your fish. Your fish is looking at you going, "What are you doing?" You know, to think that you know what's going on in the world just because you watch the news and because the fact checkers tell you, "Hey, no, that's not correct." Even the fact checkers need to be checked. And that's my truthful opinion. Because when you find out the fact checkers are also working and funded by some of these corporations that create some of the products and stuff that we're using. Now, I do need to do a little research on this. I know that Pfizer approved their one of their vaccines, but it's not the vaccine they're giving out right now. It's the new vaccine that they've created, then the second generation vaccine, because the other one's still under emergency use, from my understanding. If I'm wrong, correct me, let me know, because I haven't been able to really track and face that down. I've just seen some articles, and I'm not sure if they're, you know what I'm saying? But it's interesting to know. It's because pharmaceutical companies, they protect themselves and they protect their ass from being sued. You know, if you don't want to get sued, then try to make something right. Make it good. You know, this isn't like a lawnmower, you know, where you're going to make something go bad and you have to fix it. You're dealing with people's lives. Take some quality, take some assurance in what you're doing. The pharmaceutical company has a lot of responsibility to us as people if they want us to take it. You know, when people are getting sick from taking it, well, no wonder people are questioning it. No wonder people are asking. Because the biggest thing that I remember, follow the science, Iggy. I remember people throwing it in my face. It's in the science, follow the science, Iggy. You know, with that smart ass bitch attitude, you know, really pissed me off. Follow the science. Okay, now those people who told me to follow the science don't say nothing anymore. You don't hear them saying follow the science anymore. Because now people who have the vaccine are now getting COVID. What the hell is that? I thought this was the miracle drug. I thought it was the thing that was going to save the world. You know? I thought it was going to be the thing that we were supposed to do. Follow the science. Oh, you know what? Scientists make errors. Scientists are people. You know, and computers that they use and, you know, projections that they use is because someone programmed it. Okay? And so my belief sometimes is you should question the science and not just follow the science. Yeah, science has its place. Science has done some great things. No one's discounting that. And I know we were in a rush, we were in a hurry to find a cure to save the world. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Why? Because it just didn't happen. It's a cycle. Did the Chinese did they throw out a virus out there? Biological warfare. Are we at war? Cold War? I don't know. Are we? Do we ask those questions? Nobody asks those questions. Everybody's afraid to ask. People are afraid to ask those questions because they might They might offend somebody. You might offend somebody of an Asian descent. I have Asian friends, and they say the same thing to me. I think the Chinese did, and they're not necessarily Chinese, but they're of Asian descent. Now we have, what is this, Havana syndrome or whatever, I forget what it's called, where people are having these things where they're having side effects and stuff. Because during the Cold War, they used to use X-rays and stuff. They would push it on, beam it at what is it, the ambassadors of the embassies, the U.S. embassies and different embassies, and the guys would die from cancer. So Havana syndrome, I guess that's what Vice President Harris has some form of it or whatever. So it kind of scares me a little bit to know that our world leaders are that vulnerable, that they can be touched and tapped in that way. That should be worrisome. If they have so much detail and so much security, how can that happen to them? Now listen, I'm here to tell you, don't be afraid to talk. Don't be afraid to share. Just don't be abusive. Don't destroy somebody because you want to prove your point. So many people try to prove their point, and they just get so angry because no one's listening. No one's listening to you because, number one, you're yelling and you're screaming, and you think your truth is absolute. All truths are half-truths, period. Even what I'm telling you here, because part of it may be wrong. I may have been interpreting it wrong. But don't be afraid to speak. Don't be afraid to share. Don't be afraid to post. Don't be afraid to write. It's your right as a human being, not necessarily an American. It's your right to share it. In some other countries, you don't even have the right to talk and share what you're feeling. My God, go to the Philippines. Watch all the crazy stuff that happens there. But people submit because you know why people submit? Because they don't think they can do anything about it. They're not powerful enough. They can't defend themselves. When people don't have ways to protect themselves, they have to fall in line. If you don't have guns, you don't have any kind of way to protect yourself, you fall in line. The reason this country is strong is because there are citizens in this country who refuse to disarm. And that's good for them. That's their belief system. That's their right. That's their constitutional right. The right to bear arms. And you know what? Try taking that away from them. Good luck with that. I like to see that happen. You say, well, Iggy, people get killed with guns. No, people with guns kill. Okay? Guns don't kill people. People with guns kill people. That's something no one talks about because everybody, and then, sometimes the people with the guns that kill people have mental issues. And we never talk about that. Okay? A knife kills two. A spoon kills two. A rock to the head kills two. Okay? So people with a weapon, fire it. It's the person. Never forget that. Don't skew it. Don't make it look like this isn't Hollywood, okay? This isn't this. No. Someone pulls a trigger, they had intent, regardless if I'm into issues or not. The illusion is, oh, well, guns are bad. No, guns are not bad. Guns are only bad when we use them improperly. Okay, cars are bad when we use them improperly. Well, if we run people over with their car, like the guys did in those protests, using it improperly, right? It becomes a deadly weapon. Anything that you touch and you have malice intent to use it, I'm pretty sure becomes a deadly weapon. And so speak up or don't speak. It's your choice. I just sometimes feel like I have to say something because you know what? No one's going to say it. Maybe I have to be a voice for a small minority or a minority of one, maybe me. And when we don't share and we don't talk about the things that are in front of us, it just collects and festers inside of us. And it just boils in there, and then all of a sudden we explode. And then we get angry. And then we're resentful. And then we just lash out at everyone and everything. Now, some people watch from afar, and they're okay with that. That's fine. I have no problem with that. I don't care how you do it. But, protect what we have. A lot of good people died to give us, the foundation that we have today. And that foundation has to be Sometimes we have to add mortar back to it and refix it and straighten it up and look at it and say, hey, and not just assume. Our living constitution is very powerful. It's a living document. It's something that's there that protects all of us, not just one of us. It protects all of us to some degree. I'm not saying you have to be a rebel and you have to go out there and fight and, protest. You can write letters in private. You can share. You can call in. The point is you got to be kind of active to some degree if you want to see the changes that you want to see in your world. These changes don't just happen by chance, by osmosis. You have to literally engage. If you want to go to the store, you can walk there, you can bike there, you can drive there. Until they create teleportation, we won't go there. But you know what I'm saying? My point is you have to find the right vehicles to move you into that area. There's just a lot of bashing right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of confusion. People are upset. People are frustrated. People feel like they're being duped. There are people who are questioning, hey, why are we firing all these nurses if there's a pandemic situation? Well, people might say, well, Iggy, we're firing them because they won't take the vaccine, Iggy. I thought they were a qualified nurse. What if they had a condition? Immune compromised person. Like myself, I'm immune compromised. There are immune compromised people who take the vaccine. What happens to them? I don't know. What about people with religious beliefs that don't feel that they should take the vaccine? You just get to violate their belief system? Because if not, we're going to save the world. I remember when they were telling everybody, you're killing my friends, you're saving my family. If you don't get this or that, you don't wear a mask, you're not, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what those kind of programming does to people. I know I've lost a lot of good friends, and people unfriend me, and people moved on. Hey, listen, it's just social media, right? This is where the new revolutions happen. This is where the new ideas are born. Before it was in the pubs, before it was in the bars and the restaurants, people would drink and hang out because it was quiet. But now we're here on social media sharing our ideas, and then private companies decide, well, we're going to censor them and turn them off because they might start a riot. It's our patriotic duty. Actually, it's my shareholders I need to protect, not my patriotic duty. We don't want that on our platform. And rightfully so. They're a private company. I get it. I understand. But that's just tells you how much power social media has, how much indoctrination it's into our lives. There is probably nobody on this planet that doesn't have any form of social media that they roll around with or connect with. I believe that everybody at some level has deep connection with social media. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Spreaker, TikTok, you name it. Social media has become the new way to express our creativity or to express what's on our mind or to share information that's just regurgitated. A lot of these guys on TikTok just regurgitate information and they become TikTok famous because they're just regurgitating information and doing it in a really cool way. Oh, but the platform's from China. Hey, it's a world economy. It's a global world, right? That's what we created, and that's what we want, and that's what we've moved into. And with that, we have consequences. We have things that happen, things that occur. Can't get away from it. It just is what it is. Good luck, But I do find when private companies, and I know they have the right to do it, when they feel like they need to censor people, when they need to shut people down. There are people who post things about, whatever they're posting, and then, you got the Taliban, they still have their Twitter account up, I guess, I don't know. But you get what I'm trying to say, right? This, according to my government, they're a terrorist organization. So, I'm just going with that. So a terrorist organization has allowed to have a Twitter platform, You see the irony, or you see the irony, right? You see what I'm trying to say, right? Maybe that's the way they can check on him and keep up with him. Plus, I don't think they would even say anything on there of any value anyhow. I know a lot of world leaders are really upset with Biden right now. They feel that he conceded and he surrendered. And they were talking about court-martialing. He should be court-martialed here by our military. I don't know. I'm just sharing what I hear. Will it happen? Probably not. If they couldn't impeach Trump, they impeached him in the House, but not in the Senate. You ain't going to see Biden go anywhere either. So don't hold your breath on that. Good luck with that one. Because all his buddies are in there, you know. And then, you know, of course, Trump had all his teammates in the other house, in the Senate. Because that's politics. That's how politics works. It's a buddy system. It's a buddy system. And that's pretty much how it goes. But I wrote that today because I felt like I just wanted to share something. I don't want to be afraid to speak my mind. And you know, the other day I posted about gas, you know, and I was curious. It wasn't about Biden, but of course everybody took it to Biden because they assumed that's where I was going to go. No, that's not where I was going to go. I was curious to know why we don't use our oil reserves to lighten the load on people here in America who work very hard every day with jobs, pay a lot of taxes, all right? And we have to pay $3 or $5 in whatever state you live in, you know, to get to point A to point B. But Iggy, the economy is stuck. It doesn't. Listen, I'm 54, okay? Some of you are older, some of you are younger. I've been around. I've seen it. When the United States wants to do things for its people, it doesn't. When it wants to burden, you know, help us take the burden off a little bit, they'll do it. But when they really want to gouge you and take it from you, they take it from you. And sometimes we don't say anything. You know, I don't know if our founding fathers would want to pay 30% on income tax like we do. You know, when I was a small business, I had to match people's, their taxes with Social Security and stuff. You know, it's like double dipping on taxes. You know, you already took it from them. Now you want me to match it? Why should I match it? They already paid it. You know, it's hard for a small business person to survive. I didn't survive the pandemic either with my restaurant. I wasn't able to reopen again. You know, I paid dearly. You know, I auctioned off my stuff. My family's, restaurant 40 years. Why? Because we had to shut down, because we had to save the world. And what's better than that? You know, the money that I got from it doesn't come even close to making it right. But yet, the airlines and Ford Motor Company and all these big companies get a bailout, and they get a lot of good money. They get millions of dollars. But Iggy Garcia and his family? No. We just get according to whatever we make. And then sometimes the rent, my properties, will I get that money back? Impact? They make it very difficult. When the people who do want to help us with impact, and they want to help, and then some renters don't want to help with impact because they don't want to disclose their finances because they may be doing something illegal, then you're screwed. You know, they want to know everything you do. They want to check your records with the records that you presented with the IRS for. You know, I know the game. They want to see if you're cheating or lying. Instead of trying to help you, instead of trying to, lessen the burden on you. So a lot of the properties I have, some of the properties of my family, we lost a lot. Not because we didn't want to apply for it. It's the tenant that has to apply for that impact to help the landlord. It's probably the only time the landlord gets help, and then the tenant don't want to help. It's like a catch-22. You know, I can't write it off. You know, I can write. You know, it's just ridiculous. You know, if there's another another lockdown, I don't know what happens to the properties. Because, you can only make some, this is how you make your money, this is how you make your income, this is how you survive. If that's how you make your money, it's not about going and getting a job, because your job will never be able to cover the mortgages that are paid off by the renters, the tenants, because that's the agreement to live in the house. And there's people who take advantage of that situation. There are people who can pay and they don't want to pay. Then after October, when the impact's over, because it got extended, a lot of these people will have to go to court, and when you try to get money back from them, you're never going to get it back because they don't have the money to do it. And legally, you're entitled to it. But good luck with that. Good luck with that. Have fun with that. So, all businesses were affected. All businesses were affected, but especially small family businesses. There's a lot of restaurants that closed down. You probably know restaurants. You probably know businesses that closed down. Why? Because of the decisions we make, because of the ideas we make. We let corporations stay in business and serve the public, but then we don't let small businesses stay in business and serve the public. But Iggy, you could have made carryouts. You don't make any money on carryouts. I'm sorry. When you have DoorDash and Grubhub and they're all taking their 30% on top of your money, taking that from you, you're not making any money. You think you are, but there's always somebody else making more money than you, using you. But that's free enterprise, right? That's capitalism. But here we are. The only thing I can tell you is just don't be afraid to share. Don't be afraid to talk about what you're feeling. Yeah, you may get slapped a little bit by people, but so what? So what? You get slapped around, but you stood by what you believed in. You stood by what was important to you. And that's what matters. I believe that's what matters, is that you're able to go to bed and go to sleep and say, I said what I had to say. And it doesn't really matter what anybody believes or said, because there's always going to be a critic. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't like you. There's always going to be somebody who's going to accuse you of things, okay? Accuse you of things that are not true because they heard it this way or heard it that way, or they perceived you a certain way, or they experienced you a certain way. And that's the biggest thing, is how people experience you, how they perceive you. And, and then they make their judgments about you. So you act how you act. You be who you are and share. How do we make this place better? By sharing. In a quiet way or a loud way. But you do what's best for you. You do what's best for you in these situations. Because you already do. You have to make decisions for yourself. You can ask the doctors, you can ask your financial planner, you can ask everybody. In the end, you'll still make the decision for what you think is best for you. And that's kind of the way it should be. Just make the decision that's right for you. Because you'll feel a lot better about it. You'll be a lot happier. But if you're putting your trust in things, that's okay. But always be vigilant. Always be vigilant and say, and ask those questions. Don't just let it go just, because you trust, because you think, because because they are who they are. Because you'd be surprised, that you were probably more right than they were. I mean, people only try to do the best things they can. They try to do the best they can with the situations they're in. All right, my friends. I think I've said enough, and I think I've shared what I needed to share today and being where I needed to be today, because I was getting kind of frustrated that I wasn't able to share. And when I did share, there was always somebody goes butt hurt, But I understand now that there's always going to be somebody's butt hurt. It doesn't really matter, whatever you post. It'd be friends or family, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be someone out there who's going to challenge what you say. And you have to have thick skin. when you have to move through it and navigate through it. Because if you don't, you're just going to struggle with it. You're going to be feeling the results of that. And don't be that person that says, "Oh, I wish I would have said something." Well, you always get an opportunity to say something. All right, guys, good night. I will talk to you soon. Ho'oponopono, matakuyasin. It's good to be here. I want to thank everybody for joining me. And what's next? What's next on Iggy Garcia Live, episode 153? Enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed it tonight. I will see you guys soon. Be well. We have a drum circle coming up this Saturday at 3 o'clock at Schiller Park in German Village. I hope you could come and hang out with us. And then we'll see you, and then we'll figure out how the rest of the drum season goes. And I will talk to you soon. Peace out, guys. Be well.